He rolled his eyes. "You can't change the world by poking your heads in the sand," Dr. Gregory muttered to them, turning his head toward the window. On the workstations, the redundant simulations neared completion after eating up hours of supercomputer time, projecting a step-by-step analysis of 1 second in time, the transient moment where a man-made device unleashed energies equivalent to the core of a sun. So far, the computers agreed with his wildest expectations. Though he himself was the project head, Dr. Gregory found parts of Bright Anvil incomprehensible, baffling theoretical assumptions and after-effects that went against all his training and experience in physics. But the simulations worked, and he knew enough not to ask questions from the sponsors who had presented him with the foundations of a new concept to implement. After a 56-year-long career, Dr. Gregory found it refreshing to find an entire portion of his chosen discipline that he could not explain. It opened up the wonder of science for him all over again. He tossed the black ash aside and went back to work. Suddenly, the overhead fluorescent lights in his lab flickered as if a swarm of black bees had gotten trapped in the thin glass tubes. He heard the snapping shriek of an electrical discharge, and the lights popped and died. Dr. Gregory's failing muscles sent stabs of pain through his body as he whirled in despair to see his computer workstations also winking out. "Oh, no," he groaned. The systems should have had infallible backup power supplies to protect them during normal electrical outages. With a computer crash, he had just lost literally billions of supercomputer iterations. He pounded his gnarled fist on his desk, then levered himself to his feet and staggered over to the window, moving more quickly than his unsteady balance and his common sense allowed. Reaching the glass, he glanced outside at the other buildings in the fenced-in complex, but saw all the other interior lights still shining in the adjacent wing of the research building. Very odd. It looked as if his office alone had been specifically targeted. With a sinking feeling, Dr. Gregory began to wonder about sabotage from the protesters. Could Muriel have gone so far overboard? She would have known how to cause such damage. Though her security clearance had been taken away after she quit her job and formed Stop Nuclear Madness, perhaps she had managed to find some method to bluff her way inside, to wreck the simulation she'd have known her old mentor would be running. He didn't want to think her capable of such an action, but he knew she would have considered it, without qualms. Dr. Gregory swatted at an insistent hissing, buzzing noise in his ears, finally noticing it for the first time. With a growing sense of uneasiness that he forced himself to ignore, Dr. Gregory went to the door to shout down the hall for Bear Dooley or any of the other physicists. But he found the doorknob unbearably hot, unnaturally hot. With a hiss, he yanked his hand away, backed off, staring in shock more than pain down at the bright blisters forming in the middle of his palm. Smoke began to curl around the solid security lock doorknob, oozing out of the key slot. "Hey, what is this? Hello?" He flapped his burnt hand to cool it. "Patty, are you still out there?" Contained within the concrete walls, the wind picked up inside his office, crackling with electrical static. Papers blew curled up in a foul breath of heat. The glassine envelope of black powder spilled open, letting dark ash spray into the air. He hurried back to the door, untucking his shirt to use it as a shield against the heat so he could try again to open it. By now, though, the knob glowed red-hot, a throbbing scarlet that hurt his eyes. "Patty, I need your help! Bear, somebody!" His voice croaked, growing high-pitched with fear. In a rush, the light in the room grew brighter and brighter, seeming to emanate from the walls, a searing, harsh glare. Dr. Gregory backed against the concrete blocks, holding up his hands to shield his face from yet another aspect of physics he did not understand. The whispering voices increased in volume, rising to a crescendo of screams and accusations, climbing through the air itself, reaching a critical point. An avalanche of heat and fire slapped him so intense that it knocked him into the wall. A billion X-rays brought every cell in his body to a boil. Then came a burst of absolute light, like the core of an atomic explosion. And Dr. Gregory found himself standing right at ground zero. Teller Nuclear Research Facility, Pleasanton, California. Tuesday, 10 a.m. The security guard stepped out of a small prefab shack just outside the chain-link fence perimeter of the large research facility. He glanced at Fox Mulder's papers and FBI identification, then motioned for him to take his rental car back over to the badge office just outside the gate. In the passenger seat, Scully sat up straighter, willing the cells of her body to pump more energy and bring her to full wakefulness, full alertness. She hated catching red-eye flights, especially from the East Coast. Already today she had spent hours on the plane and now another hour with her partner driving from the San Francisco airport. She had rested fitfully on the large plane, no more than a brief nap instead of genuine sleep. Mulder guided the car to the front of a small white office isolated from the large cluster of buildings farther inside the fence. Mulder stepped out of the car and straightened his suit jacket, adjusted his maroon tie. They were both FBI agents, after all, and had to appear suitable for the part. "I need another cup of coffee," Scully said, following him out of the car. "I want to be absolutely certain I can devote my full attention to the details of a case bizarre enough to drag us across the country." A sign on the wall clearly listed all of the items that were not permitted inside the fence of the Teller Nuclear Research Facility: cameras, firearms, drugs, alcohol, personal recording devices, telescopes. Scully scanned the items, but found it familiar from her own experience at FBI headquarters. "I'll check us in," she said, and flipped open a small notebook from the pocket of her forest green suit. She waited in line behind several large men in paint-spattered overalls, feeling extremely overdressed for the occasion. Another woman opened a station at the end of the counter and gestured Scully over. "I suppose I must look a little out of place here," she said, and displayed her badge. "I'm Special Agent Dana Scully. My partner is Fox Mulder. We're here to meet with," she glanced down at her paper again, "a Department of Energy representative, a Ms. Rosabeth Carrera, who is expecting us here at the facility." The badge office woman handed Mulder and Scully each a laminated visitor's badge. "Wear these at all times. Make sure they're visible and above the waist," she said. "And here." She handed them each a blue plastic rectangle that clipped to the badge. It seemed to contain a strip of film and computer chip inside. "These are your radiation dosimeters. Always keep them on your person." "Radiation dosimeters?" Scully asked, keeping her tone calm, devoid of any obvious worry. "Is there some cause for concern here?" "Just a precaution, Agent Scully. We are a nuclear research facility, you understand." Mulder and Scully didn't have long to wait before a petite Hispanic woman bustled in through the glass doors, looking full of energy and enthusiasm, eager to meet them. She spotted the two FBI agents instantly and came over. "I'm Rosabeth Carrera," she said, "one of the DOE representatives here at the research facility. I'm very pleased you could come out on such short notice, but it is something of an emergency." "If you follow me," Carrera said, "we'll take you into the site and the scene of the, accident. We've left everything the way it was for the past 18 hours. It is so unusual, we wanted to give you a chance to look at it fresh. We'll take my car." Carrera parked in front of the large laboratory buildings and led them quickly through the dim halls in the building up to the second floor. The echoing structure reminded Scully of a high school. Long banks of fluorescent lights lit the halls. One of the tubes overhead was gray and flickering. Scully wondered how long it had been since it needed to be replaced. The entire corridor had been blocked off with yellow plastic tape. Since the Teller Research Facility couldn't be expected to have crime scene barricades, they had settled for construction area tape. Two lab security guards stood posted on either side of the corridor, looking uncomfortable with their assignment. Down the hall beyond the yellow tape, all the other offices stood empty, though the running computers and filled bookshelves showed that they had been occupied recently. Co-workers of Dr. Emil Gregory, she wondered? If so, they would all have to be interviewed. No doubt all the workers had been relocated pending investigation of the accident. One door, though, had been tightly shut and sealed with more of the yellow tape. Rosabeth Carrera stood beside it and pulled off her own laminated picture badge, from which dangled a dosimeter and several keys. "Take a quick look around," she said, pushing the door open and simultaneously turning her face away. "This is just first glance. You've got 2 minutes." Scully and Mulder stood beside each other at the threshold and stared inside. It looked as if a cluster bomb had gone off inside Dr. Gregory's lab office.